questions. Will you recommend the Job Guide 360 interview guide to prospective job seekers?
Sure, I will. The guide is detailed and very comprehensive.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're really digging into a role that's becoming, well, absolutely critical in fast-moving companies. And the chief of staff.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're not just looking at some generic job description here. We've actually got our hands on a set of, I think it's 25 really tough interview questions and the kind of expert answers expected.
Exactly. Material designed to test judgment, systems thinking. Basically, everything you need for a top-tier QS, especially in that high-growth startup world.
And it really lays bare what their role is through what they expect you to do. This isn't about being an executive assistant. No, not at all. It's about being that operational partner, the CEO's force multiplier. So our mission today is to unpack the core stuff. How they create leverage, build systems from zero, handle crises, and crucially, manage up. That last one's key. Finding the courage to push back effectively.
Definitely. So if you want the fast track to understanding what high-impact operational leadership looks like, this is the deep dive for you.
All right, let's get into it. Okay, so let's start right at the heart of it. The big question, the one that always comes up. Walk me through how you've made a CEO or founder more effective. This is all about leverage, right? What does that actually look like in practice?
Yeah, it's the core mandate. And a good answer immediately goes to systemic solutions. It's about taking repeatable, high-friction work off the CEO's plate by building transparent systems.
So not just doing tasks for them.
No, exactly. It's building the machine so those tasks, ideally, don't even land on their desk in the first place. Or if they do, they're filtered and prepped.
Okay, so what are those first machines they typically build? The sources we looked at are pretty consistent. 3 things usually come up first. 1, ruthlessly auditing the CEO's calendar. 2, centralizing all the inbound noise investors, execs, press into one managed channel, like a gatekeeper, but more strategic.
Sort of, yeah. More like an air traffic controller. And 3rd, and this one's huge, building a weekly decision brief. This forces key discussions into a predictable slot. So freeing up the founder's headspace for the big picture stuff like product and fundraising.
Precisely. And the results can be really striking. We saw examples. One co-S cut the CEO's meeting time by 25%. Another slashed decision turnaround time internally from 5 days down to just 2.
Wow, 25% meeting reduction. That's massive. That fundamentally changes the CEO's week. But let's be real, that initial calendar audit sounds politically tricky. Doesn't that take some serious buy-in?
Oh, absolutely. It hinges entirely on the CEO truly believing their time is the company's most valuable, asset. If they don't fully back the co-S on this, the whole system just falls apart.
So how does the co-S earn that trust, that capital?
You have to show the metrics fast. Like, okay, I saved you 2 hours this week by restructuring these meetings. You use that time for those 2 critical customer calls you couldn't fit in before. You demonstrate the tangible value, and that earns you the right to look at the rest of their schedule.
Makes sense. Show, don't just tell. Okay, speaking of time sinks, meetings, especially executive meetings, they can be notoriously inefficient. The goal you mentioned, have the time double the decisions, sounds great, but how do they actually pull that off?
It takes discipline. Ruthless meeting hygiene, really. The strategy itself is pretty simple, but enforcing it is the hard part. First, you push all status updates to async pre-reads, concise ones.
Right, get the updates out of the meeting itself.
Exactly. Then, the meeting agenda is strictly limited, maybe 3 decisions max. And for each one, you need a stated decision-making framework, like SPADE or RAPID, and a clear owner who's responsible for driving it.
Okay, pre-reads. Everyone loves the idea of pre-reads, but getting busy executives to actually do them consistently, that's a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
How does this co-S enforce that?
You have to make the alternative painful, or at least unproductive. If an exec shows up without doing the pre-read and tries to give their status update verbally,
you shut it down. Boy.
Politely but firmly, yes. You say something like, thanks, that context was in the pre-read doc. Let's stay focused on the 3 decision points on the agenda. It forces adoption because wasting everyone else's time becomes, well, obviously counterproductive for them.
I see. You make the new way the only productive way to participate.
Precisely. And then you absolutely have to close the loop. And every single one of these redesign meetings with a clear documented decisions log. Who owns what, by when. And you start the next meeting by reviewing progress against that log. Accountability.
Right, that closes the loop. Okay, so that's managing the CEO's time in key meetings. Let's shift gears to the company's broader operating system. Often, a TOS joins a startup that's moving fast but lacks formal structure. How do you build that initial operating cadence, set OKRs, without, grinding everything to a halt with bureaucracy?
Yeah, that's the classic 0 to 1 challenge for COES. The playbook emphasizes starting really lightweight. Don't try to boil the ocean. You begin with maybe a one-page strategy doc, super concise.
Just one page.
One page. Focused. And from that, you define maybe 3 to 5 company-level objectives and key results. OKRs. And these absolutely must cascade clearly down to team-level KRs with owners. Simple structure, but high rigor in the connections.
Okay, simple structure, clear cascade. What about the rhythm? What are the essential rituals to keep that structure actually alive and useful?
The sources point to a pretty standard, effective cadence. Weekly stand-ups, but purely for tactical sync and unblocking. Monthly reviews for a deeper dive into performance against those KRs. And quarterly retrospective to look back, learn, and adjust strategy.
And underpinning all of that,
A living dashboard. Key metrics visible to everyone involved. That dashboard anchors all those rituals.
right? The dashboard. So the KOS is often tasked with building the first real KPI dashboard. It's so easy to get lost in data possibilities. How do they make it effective early on? Avoid that analysis paralysis.
Focus is everything. The KPIs absolutely have to tie directly to the company's current main strategic push, or you focus on user acquisition. Then it's metrics like activation rate, maybe channel efficiency, focused on profitability. Then it's burn multiple, maybe gross margin.
And you limit the number.
Crucially, yes, the consensus seems to be around 8 to 10 core metrics max, any more than that, especially early on. And you just dilute focus. The team won't know what the real priorities are.
Okay, 8 to 10 metrics. But isn't there a risk there? Limiting the views so tightly, what if something unexpected crops up in a metric you're not tracking closely on that main dashboard?
That's a great point, and that's actually part of the COSES's job. They need to be scanning the periphery, looking at secondary metrics, synthesizing broader data. The main dashboard isn't primarily for their discovery. It's a tool to align the team on executing the current strategy.
Oh, okay. So the dashboard's for focus. The KSS handles the broader scan.
Exactly. And that leads to probably the most critical detail for making a dashboard useful. The narrative section. It can't just be numbers. The KS needs to add context, commentary. What do these numbers mean? What decisions should we consider? Based on this, it turns reporting into actual decision support. That makes a huge difference. It answers the so what question. Okay, but building a great system, a great dashboard, that's only half the battle, right? How does the QoS make sure these new processes actually get used? Avoid becoming expensive shelfware. That feels like a change management challenge. It absolutely is change management. And the key is making the new way demonstrably better for the users. You can't just impose it. The playbook suggests a few things. Co-design the process with the people who actually use it. Run a small pilot first. Get feedback.
Yeah.
Involve them early. Yes. And here's the real kicker. Ensure the new process actively replaces something worse, something people already find frustrating. You have to remove pain, not just add a new tool. Okay. Can you give an example of that, like from the source materials?
Yeah, there was a good one. A COES rolled out a new async update system, but the key was they simultaneously killed 2 painful, time-wasting status meetings that everyone hated.
So people felt the benefit immediately. Less meeting time.
Exactly. And then the COES published data showing the new system led to like a 20% reduction in project rework because the communication was clearer. People saw the direct benefit, less wasted time, better outcomes. That's how you drive adoption. It solves a real problem for them.
Makes perfect sense. Solve their pain. Okay, let's shift to some higher stakes scenarios. Judgment under pressure. The COES is often the CEO's proxy. What happens when something big breaks a production outage, a PR crisis, and the CEO is totally offline, maybe on a plane?
This is where preparation is key. You don't figure it out in the moment. You have to rely on a predefined, practiced incident response protocol.
Like a fire drill, but for business crises.
Basically, yeah. First step. Activate a specific designated incident channel, Slack, Teams, whatever.
Yeah.
Get the right people in one place fast. Second, assign an incident commander. Someone empowered to make decisions right then and there. Clear authority.
Get a clear, simple holding statement out externally as quickly as possible. Acknowledge the issue, say you're working on it, buys you time, manages the narrative. Speed and clarity are vital.
And after the dust settles,
Run a blameless postmortem or retrospective. Focus on what happened, why, and how to prevent it without pointing fingers. Learn from it.
got it. Okay, crisis managed. Now what about a different kind of crisis, an internal one? You're prepping for a board meeting and the numbers. Well, they're not good. They're significantly off plan. How does the co handle that communication? It's a tough spot.
Yeah, it requires real finesse, honesty, but also leadership. The narrative strategy is everything here. You have to lead with the truth directly, no sugarcoating. So build a clear story. Exactly. A concise storyline. Here's what we planned. Here's what actually happened. Here's our best understanding of why there's a gap. And critically, here are the specific actions we are taking now to correct course. Quantify the gap, but immediately pivot to the plan.
Yes. And you need to attach, say, 3 or 4 concrete corrective actions with clear owners and timelines. Show you understand the problem and you have a credible plan to address it. It demonstrates control even when results are down.
And managing the board itself. Any crucial steps there before the actual meeting?
Absolutely. You must pre-brief key board members individually beforehand. Walk them through the results and the plan one-on-one.
Why is that pre-briefing so important?
It eliminates surprises in the full meeting, which boards hate. It lets you gauge their reactions, answer tough questions privately, and maybe even get their input or alignment on the corrective actions. It makes the formal meeting much smoother and more productive, reduces the chance of getting derailed.
Smart. Manage expectations proactively. Okay, let's talk about something you mentioned earlier, managing up. Pushing back on the CEO or another senior leader. It's necessary for a good co-S, but feels inherently risky, Bryce. How do they do that without damaging that crucial trust?
This is where judgment really shines. It's never about ego or just disagreeing. The approach has to be rooted in data and solutions. Data-driven framing is the key phrase. You never push back based just on a gut feeling.
Got an example. The sources mentioned one about a pricing cut.
Yeah, that was a great one. The CEO proposed an across-the-board price cut to boost sales. The kiosk disagreed, but they didn't just say, no, that's a bad idea.
What did they do instead?
They came prepared. They brought cohort analysis data showing that retention, not initial price, was the bigger issue. They brought qualitative feedback from customer interviews. They framed the problem differently using evidence.
So they used data to reframe the problem.
Exactly. And crucially, they offered a constructive alternative. Instead of saying no to the price cut entirely, they proposed a time-bound experiment. Let's test this new pricing on one specific segment for 60 days and measure the impact, instead of rolling it out everywhere irreversibly.
So offering a way to test the idea safely, it turns a potential confrontation into a collaborative experiment.
Precisely. You provide data, you offer a solution, you de-risk the CEO's idea while still addressing the underlying concern. That builds trust, even in disagreement.
That's a fantastic technique. Okay, what about conflict between leaders? Say 2 department heads have competing priorities, both genuinely important, but resources are limited. How does the KOS mediate that?
The CONUS has to act as a neutral facilitator, not a judge handing down a verdict. The first step is always to re-anchor everyone on the shared company goals. Remember those 3-5 company OKRs we talked about? Bring the discussion back to those.
Remind them what the ultimate objectives are.
Yes. Then you introduce a neutral objective framework for prioritizing. Often something like a RICE score is used.
Okay, can you quickly break down RICE for listeners who might not know it?
Sure. RICE stands for reach, how many people will this impact? Impact, how much will it impact them on a scale? Confidence, how confident are we in our estimates for reach and impact? And effort, how much work will this take?
So you score both competing projects using those criteria.
Yeah, you facilitate a process where both leaders, maybe with the SOCAS guiding, score their initiatives against those factors. You make the scoring transparent. It forces an objective conversation about which project truly delivers more overall company value relative to its cost. It depersonalizes the decision and clarifies the necessary trade-off based on strategy, not just who shouts loudest.
Excellent way to structure a difficult choice. Okay, final segment. Let's talk prioritization under serious constraints. You've got, say, 6 urgent, important cross-functional projects, but only resources for maybe 3. How does the COS manage that?
Again, framework first. You absolutely need a visible prioritization method, RCA, impact versus effort matrix, whatever fits the context. You facilitate that scoring. But the communication afterwards is just as critical.
What's key in that communication?
You have to socialize the final stack ranked list. And you must be explicitly clear about what is being deprioritized and why. Don't just announce the winners, acknowledge the things you're choosing not to do right now. And importantly, create a risk register for those deprioritized items. What risks are we accepting by delaying Project X? Make the trade-offs explicit and understood.
So everyone understands the choices and the potential consequences. What about when the goals themselves are fuzzy? The company knows it needs to do something, gain momentum, but the exact path isn't clear. You can't just wait forever for perfect clarity.
No, you definitely can't freeze. This is where that bias for action is crucial. The COS needs to help the leadership team sharpen the focus, even if it's just on the immediate problem. Define a sharp problem statement. What's the core issue we need to tackle right now?
Okay, narrow the focus. Then what? Then you launch a small, focused experiment. Spin up a small team, sometimes called a swarm. Give them tight deadline, like 2 weeks, and a clear goal. Run an experiment, gather data, report back on what you learned. It's about de-risking through rapid iteration, learning as you go, rather than waiting for a perfect plan. Get moving, get data, then adjust. Makes sense. Financial literacy also comes up a lot for this role, especially with tight budgets. What's the COS framework for managing budget and runway? It usually involves maintaining a rolling financial model, typically looking out 12 to 18 months. And critically, this isn't just one forecast. It needs multiple scenarios, a base case, a conservative case, maybe a stretch goal case, scenario planning.
Exactly. And you need to be constantly monitoring those key startup financial health metrics. Things like the burn multiple, how many dollars are you burning for every new dollar of recurring revenue you add? And of course, CSLATV.
Customer acquisition cost versus lifetime value. Why are those two so fundamental here?
Because they basically dictate survival for a venture-backed startup. You need to make sure the lifetime value of a customer is significantly higher than what it costs you to acquire them. The burn multiple tells you how efficiently you're using cash to grow. If those metrics start going sideways,
You need to react fast.
immediately. And the COS plays a key role here by tying spending like big vendor contracts or new hiring batches to specific milestone-based triggers in the plan. If key metrics slip or revenue targets are missed, certain spending automatically freezes until things get back on track. It builds in financial discipline.
That's smart, tying spend to actual performance triggers. Okay, let's bring it home, the onboarding. If someone listening gets hired as a COS tomorrow, what does that first 30, 60, 90 days typically look like? What are the expectations? Okay, days 1 to 30, it's almost entirely about discovery. Listening mode. Meet everyone, understand the workflows, map out how decisions actually get made today, not just the org chart version. Your main output by day 30 is identifying the top 3 leverage opportunities for the CEO. But don't try to fix anything major yet. Just diagnose. Okay, month 1, listen and diagnose. What about month 2? Days 31 to 60. Now you start implementing. Ship one clear, visible, cross-functional win, something that demonstrates value and builds credibility. This is also when you typically establish that lean operating cadence, the weekly, monthly, quarterly rhythm we discussed. And you get version 1 of that company dashboard published, tracking those key 8-10 metrics. Got it. Implement structure, get a win, publish a dashboard. And the final stretch, days 61 to 90.
Now you start tackling something bigger, more strategic. Pick one significant strategic project. Maybe it's related to pricing or user activation or refining the sales process and make real progress on it. And you'll likely be deeply involved in preparing for the next board meeting, ensuring that narrative is tight and the data supports it.
That's a packed 90 days. It really crystallizes the blend of skills needed.
Yeah.
This has been fantastic, really breaking down the role. It feels like the COS is the ultimate test of judgment, strategy, operations, diplomacy, all rolled into one, being the company's chief unblocker.
That's a great way to put it, the unblocker. We saw examples where the Celeste had to temporarily step into, say, product marketing, draft a launch brief, run a beta program just because there was a gap and a critical launch couldn't slip. They filled a void until a permanent fix is in place.
Wow. Okay, one final area that feels critical, confidentiality. The Solid is privy to extremely sensitive information. How do they balance maintaining that executive trust with the need to keep the broader team informed and aligned? That seems like a tightrope walk.
It absolutely is.
Right.
Radical discretion is non-negotiable. The skill lies in synthesizing sensitive executive discussions, maybe about potential layoffs or fundraising challenges, into actionable but anonymized updates for the relevant teams. You share the what's and the why that people need to know to do their jobs without betraying the confidential source or details.
So translating sensitive context into safe, actionable guidance.
Exactly. Trust is built through that consistent, reliable discretion, but also through clarity on what can be shared and why. Documenting communication norms helps too.
Okay, so pulling this all together for our listeners, maybe someone considering this role or working with the COS, what's the final, maybe provocative thought or challenge here?
I think it's that the expectation isn't just great execution today, it's about constant evolution. A great COS makes themselves and the systems they build continuously better. They have to stay plugged into the broader COS and ops communities, always sourcing new best practices.
Never settling.
Never. The final challenge is to proactively run lightweight experiments on the operating system itself. Try a new meeting format, a different board prep template, a new tool for tracking OKRs, do this quarterly, measure the impact, and keep iterating. The COAS isn't just running the machine, they're constantly upgrading it. The status quo is never good enough.
The work is truly never done. Constant improvement. That's a powerful takeaway. Thank you so much for walking us through this COAS playbook. Really insightful stuff.
My pleasure. It was great digging into it.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.